Not to be too controversial, but men get kind of a bad rap these days. We're told that there's toxic masculinity and to avoid it, and how to be a good person, but what about how to be a good man? Our society doesn't give a lot of ways to be initiated into being a good man, and so instead you're left with don't be a man, or be a caricature of a man, or one specific archetype of masculinity. But men are not all the same. There's not one formula for how to be a good man and how to be masculine. I'm going to show 9 different ways to be a good man, 9 different styles of heroic masculinity, using the Enneagram as a framework. So let's get to it. Hi, I'm Ayla with True Systems, and the first one up is Type 1, the Crusader. Type 1's masculinity really comes from being principled. These are highly conscientious guys. They're your classic caped crusaders. These guys are highly disciplined, highly conscientious, and highly responsible. Think archetypally a knight in shining armor. But his armor isn't shining because he's like vain and thinking, oh, I look so good in this armor. He knows that that's not good. It's all about shining your armor because it's supposed to be, because it's the right thing to do. These guys live by a code of ethics. And sometimes that code of ethics can seem a little bit antiquated, like, maybe they always take off their hat when they enter a room, or, always do the thing you're supposed to, but nobody even remembers that's a rule that existed. Opens doors for people, knows when to offer their hand to shake. It's all about honor and integrity and absolutely not cutting any corners. This man closes the kitchen cabinets after he opens them. Just look at this guy. He is a stand-up citizen, and always has good posture too. They're all about protecting what is righteous and fair, and their strength comes from doing what's right, even when it's hard. Like if they find a lost wallet on the side of the road full of money, they look for if there's a way to contact the person, and they won't stop until they do. And if they can't, they're not going to pocket that money. They're going to give it to charity, because that's what a good man does. These guys have a lot of self-control and are highly disciplined. They don't tend to do things impulsively or just for fun. Think Captain America, Batman, Black Panther, Mr. Darcy, Mufasa. Okay, so sign me up. This sounds great. I'm all about ones. And that's true. They're amazing. But it's just one version of masculinity. And with each of these types, I'm going to talk about the toxic side of the type as well. Ones can be controlling and nitpicking, finding flaws in everything and in everyone. This is where you hear that classic toxic trait of being judgmental and critical. Like, you have to wear this, you need to look a certain way, don't do that, why are you going out like that? All of those kinds of things. The dishwasher can only be loaded one way. They hold themselves to a really high standard and can be really hard on themselves internally, but that can come out externally being hard on others as well. And they're often not aware of this. They just feel like they're fixing flaws. They feel that everyone should care as much as them. So that's the toxic side of ones. But what's really attractive about these guys? There's something very attractive to having high standards and sticking to them. They don't compromise on things just because it would be easier to, or that something's difficult. They have a strong spine and a lot of integrity, and it's really attractive. Next up, we have Type 2. The daddy. These guys are very aware of the needs of others and meeting those needs. This guy's masculinity is devoted. They're all about acts of service, like making you soup when you're sick or bringing you flowers to your work. The kind of stuff where you're like, oh, you're my hero. Think Professor X, Samwise Gamgee, Ted Lasso, Spider-Man. This guy is not just going to offer his jacket to you when you're cold. He's going to take off his shirt and give you his shirt. He knows you're cold. You don't have to say it. They know when birthdays are, your favorite cookie. He ordered you an extra burger and fries, even though when he was getting the food, you said you weren't hungry, but he knew you were going to be hungry. These guys are non-judgmental. Random people tell them their problems. That guy, he doesn't know her. She just showed up. And he's just like, oh, I'm here for you. And he's strong and takes care of her. And look at that flannel. It's soft. And you just know you can cry and show your emotions. And it's she's in love with him. They've never even met. These guys are usually pretty extroverted and social and charismatic. And they give the best compliments. These are your back massage guys. And they don't want a back massage in return. They're very intuitive in relationships. And they like to make people feel good. So some people are going to be hearing this and they're going to be like, okay, sign me up. Sounds like there's no bad side. This is great. And the thing is, there's a toxic side to 2s as well. This is the toxic masculinity traits that you hear, like being jealous and needy and manipulative. That guy who is love bombing you and then really, really clingy. And then like resentful if you didn't love him back in return. There can kind of be like this unspoken contract that 2s sometimes have, like I'm giving to you so that you will like me, and like you may not know that contract's happening and then they're upset. And so sometimes they can be overly obsessed in another partner and kind of stalkery. But as you can hear, these toxic traits are entirely different than the 1's toxic traits. And when these 2s are heroic, they are attractive. And what's attractive about them is that you know that they're really there for you. And they can handle your emotions too. They don't mind helping someone through a rough patch or helping pick up what's broken. They're not scared of that. They might even like the challenge. Okay, next we have 3s, the winner. Their masculinity is ambitious. These are high achievers. They embody that classic masculine archetype of being successful. The right car, the right hair, the right house. This guy goes to the gym regularly. He has the show muscles to prove it. They're goal-oriented leaders and everything is on fleek. He is dapper. He is slick. He's charming. Look at her. She can't take her eyes off him. He's attracting a crowd. He's the center of the show. He is going to shine in situations like this, but also at REI. Anywhere, really. He's shining in the boardroom. He's shining at the beach. We all know who was the actual star in the Barbie movie. But also think Don Draper, Buzz Lightyear, Hercules, Thor. Tons of actual celebrities in real life. 3s are the kind of guys you admire, and they know what people are looking for to be admired. They're very efficient and they're really good at being the best. It doesn't matter in what category, they're going to outshine other people. It could even be like best at Burning Man. It's like you remember these guys. Their strength comes from perseverance and going through a challenge. They have the courage to bite off more than they can chew and keep chewing. They're just gonna go and go and go. They have the courage to fake it till you make it and then actually make it. And they also don't settle. They don't settle for their partner or for their job or for anything that they're doing. They're always going to be looking towards that next goal and how to get to it. They set their sights high, and this inspires others to do that as well. So great heroic masculinity examples, but what's the toxic side? This guy can be really image focused, posting pictures of him with his new car, showing off his muscles, kind of being a show off. And this image obsession might be things like only picking the girl because of how she looks or how she makes him look. They can sometimes even compete with their partner and be always trying to outshine them. They can be workaholics that don't always prioritize family and friends. And they can sometimes just be fake. They really don't want people to see any failure with them. But at their best, there's so many things that are attractive about 3s. First of all, they look good. They have excellent social skills, they're hardworking and energetic, and they are not lazy. And they're charming, they've got game. What's really attractive is that he's out of your league, but when you're with him, he makes you feel like you're totally in his league. He's going to take you on a date to a place where you can't pronounce the name of the place, and you're going to fit in there with him. They work really hard at everything that they do, and so they're going to be successful because of that. And ultimately, success is attractive. Next, we have 4s, the mystic. Their masculinity is edgy. This is your classic driven artist archetype. They just have this innate creativity that's just inside them and waiting to come out. They can summon it. It's almost otherworldly. Their strength is that they don't fear sadness. They don't fear the darkness and the depth. They're not worried about the unknown. They want to go there. You're going to be at your worst. You're going to be crying. You're going to be ugly crying. And they're into that. They're like, ooh, ugly crying. This is something real. There's nothing fake about this. And they're really into authenticity that way. They like when things are intense. They value authenticity and they're not afraid to be themselves and to be different. And they respect that in other people. These guys are nonconformists. They like putting themselves out there. They like ruffling feathers. This guy is edgy. He likes pushing the limits. He knows metal bands that you've never even heard of. He knows about shibari. he has a stick and poke tattoo that a friend gave him. You know, they're the guys who were doing it before it was cool, whatever it was. He knows other people aren't ready for this, but he's doing it anyway. He's raw and real, and it's powerful. I mean, look at this guy. He is summoning otherworldly entities that we don't even understand. He's not scared of the shadows. He's even curious. There's even a protective aspect with fours where they want you to also be authentic and they want you to be your true self. They're like, no, don't change yourself. Don't let others change you. Think Dream from Sandman, Loki, Prince Zuko, and tons of real life musicians and artists. So fours, they're sounding pretty cool, and they are, but what's the toxic side? They can be self-absorbed and entitled, like, I'm special, the world should revolve around me, everyone else is an NPC, and I'm the main character. It can sometimes be like, the world should recognize my greatness, and then having like self-pity when it doesn't happen. And they can often be reactive, throwing almost like tantrums when they don't feel like they're understood. So they can be kind of triggered and dramatic when their feelings aren't validated. So that's the low side of four. So what's attractive? It's attractive how mysterious he is. You know, he's a man of mystery. You know, you're drawn to like, what is that guy over there thinking in the corner at this party who hasn't said anything? And you're like, who's he? And he's very aesthetically attuned, so he has a cool look. Like, he can pull off purple. Another thing that's really attractive about fours is that they're romantic, like classically romantic. They'll buy you flowers, or even better, he's gonna pick flowers on a mountainside for you and bring you those wild flowers that's your favorite color. Like real romance, he understands a vibe. Like, he is a vibe. His aura says he knows about auras. And he's authentic. Like, he has an interesting lifestyle because that's what he wanted to do, and that's attractive. Next, we have 5, the wizard. These guys are objective, rational, and analytical. These are your Jack Ryans, your Doctor Strange, your Merlin, your Gandalf, all wizards. Batman's gadget guy, James Bond's gadget guy. These guys are very independent. They're very self-sufficient. They don't want to have to be beholden to anyone or have to do any favors for somebody. They tend to be very curious, very observant, and that can be anywhere from big intellectual ideas to technical ideas. So they're very curious, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily really engaging with the world. It's more from observing from a step back. It's more like they don't need to leave their study in order to learn more about the world. One does not need to go outside in order to wizard. Like, you can tell he's an expert. People come to him to have more understanding because he probably does know the most about that thing. He's an expert in his field of studies, but also in a bunch of random other things. He has a lot of knowledge, but he has a lot of ideas. You know, sometimes really interesting ideas, sometimes even eclectic and strange ideas. 5s are iconoclastic. They don't care what everyone else is doing. They're just going to do it in a different and interesting way because it's more logical and it makes more sense. Like deciding to design a 5-way helmet mirror for your bicycle. He doesn't care that it looks weird. It's going to work better than everyone else's. Their strength comes from being able to be objective and calm when other people are really emotional. They're not easily swayed by emotions either and are able to stay practical and logical. So this combination of intelligence and being iconoclastic really makes for a kind of genius. These guys have big ideas that really can change the world. So at their best, these guys are super smart, they're thoughtful, and they're level-headed. But what does the toxic side look like? This is your classic thing that you hear with toxic masculinity of being emotionally unavailable, being checked out, distracted, aloof. This is like your classic old-fashioned dad stereotype, like he's too absorbed in the projects going on in his garage to know that kids need him. Another classic toxic masculinity trait that you hear a lot that applies to 5s is mansplaining. I'm actually not really into this term. I think anyone can splain. But this is a specific thing that does happen with 5s often. A lot of it has to do with that they do know a lot. They really are very informed. But in some cases, it can be this need to show that they're really informed. And so it can lean towards being arrogant in some cases. But what's attractive about 5s? Their brain power. It's powerful being able to know a lot about a lot of different things. And there's a lot of confidence in that, and that's really attractive. You know, they've mastered a lot of skills, and that is really can draw you to them. He's really like that classic hot nerd. You know, he's giving professor all the time. He's like a silver fox and has been since he was like an undergrad. These guys are like no drama. Like they're super self-sufficient. They don't need a lot. They could probably live in a cardboard box and be totally fine, as long as the cardboard box has internet. But when you're with a 5, you don't need the internet. They have so many interesting ideas, and that's super appealing. And you can learn so much from 5s and have really interesting conversations, which is super attractive. By the way, if you like this video, press the like button. Okay, next we have type 6, the trooper. Their masculinity is dedicated. They're steady, they're very loyal, they're very stoic. These guys are solid. Like normal people don't go around swearing oaths of loyalty. They do. They can be your strong and silent type of guy, or they might be more like a buddy and friend, but they tend to not really show their feelings very much. They tend to hold their cards close to their chest. Think The Mandalorian, Aragorn, The Witcher, Leonard McCoy, Rip Wheeler, John Wick, Jason Bourne, really your classic action hero. Not to mention all the many unspoken heroes in real life. These guys are courageous, but not in a showy way. They often go into a situation being not very sure if it's going to work out. They just do it because they know they need to do it, not because they think it's going to be easy or going to go well. So they tend to adopt phrases like, let's get this over with, bite the bullet, rip the Band-Aid off. And they're going to do those things that are difficult because not doing it might cause something worse down the line. And they're thinking ahead to those things. They're cautious and they're wanting to be prepared. It's, you know, that kind of bodyguard, bouncer. They're your Secret Service. These guys are on the lookout for potential hazards. You know, they know where the exits are. They're going to back up into a parking spot so it's easy to get out if you need to. These guys are absolutely necessary in your zombie preparedness plan. They're proactive, like they're going to have a pump in their car for filling up the air on the tires. You never know what's going to happen. This guy's Swiss Army knife has a Swiss Army knife in it. It's just for opening Amazon boxes, but still. This guy is somebody you can count on. He has been standing in the mud and in the rain for, who knows, days. These are your classic soldiers. They are loyal team players. They're going to be that way with the people that they're working with, the people that they're fighting with, the person that they're married to. They're tried and true ride or die guys. So what's the downside? So this is really where you get that toxic masculinity trait of being paranoid and suspicious, often about their partner. But it can be about a lot of different things. And sometimes this can even go towards having like really wacky conspiracy theories. 6s are really good at questioning and questioning motives, but sometimes in the toxic side, it can go even farther and start questioning people who they really care about and wanting to test them and make sure that they're still loyal to them. Like, who are your friends and why are you hanging out with them? They can also have a toxic trait of being very hot and cold. So sometimes really going towards their partner or towards other people and wanting to make a bond and a connection, and then realizing that that might not be fully safe and pulling away and then being really cold and pulled back. So what's attractive about 6s? He's got your back. You can let your guard down because he's got things figured out. You know, you don't need to ask a million times, have you locked the car? He locked the car. Don't worry about it. These guys are consistent and capable. Whatever happens, he will be able to handle. They will man up. They will get hard done that no one else is willing to do. There's just something very attractive about a man who takes on a duty and follows through. Next, we have type 7, the explorer. Their masculinity is adventurous. They have that classic pioneering spirit. They just want to get out there and see what's happening and what's on the horizon that hasn't been seen before. They're very positive and open-minded. They want to experience everything, and because of this, they end up being a jack of all trades. And things generally come pretty easily to them. These guys tend to be pretty funny and often see life as a bit of a joke. They just don't want to take things so seriously that you end up missing out on life. You know, they're all about living life to the fullest and having lots of experiences. They're like the Dos Equis guy, the most interesting man in the world. This guy, he's definitely been to the highlands of somewhere. He circumnavigated the globe on a sailboat. He's like spent a year in China filming a documentary food series with no formal training. He's really kind of fearless. He's not scared to try new things and experience new things. This guy's like snails? Yeah, why not? I love snail. And because of all of this, he has a lot of interesting stories to tell. They're charismatic and charming, and they have big personalities. This guy is visionary, he has big ideas, and he doesn't mind taking risks. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and the shot might be a liquor with a worm in it. 7s are your classic crazy startup guys. Like, look at this guy. He's got some crazy ideas. He just found a bunch of furs in Nova Scotia, and he's going to sell them in the Philippines and make a ton of money. It's entrepreneurial, and it's wild ideas. He's got flair, he's got panache, he has charm. He's engaging. You just know he can charm the pants off of anyone. Their strength is optimism because they can see possibilities in anything. It makes them really flexible and easy to pivot and come up with new ideas. Like, they're not going to let a hard thing get in their way of doing something. Adversity is just another opportunity to change into something more interesting. So they're very adaptable. These guys also don't fear how other people will see them. Like, they're perfectly fine pressing the limits of propriety, maybe saying like an off-color joke, maybe wearing a yellow suit to a board meeting. They kind of give off a funny pirate vibe. Like, think Jack Sparrow and Star-Lord, Han Solo, Tony Stark, Aladdin. He'll show you the world. So these guys are fun. They're going to take you on adventures with them. They're spontaneous. What's the downside? This is the toxic masculinity trait of being a man-child. That Peter Pan syndrome of not wanting to have too many responsibilities or things getting too real. You also see the classic toxic trait of being commitment phobic and not wanting to be penned in and always wanting to keep your options open. So things like being a ladies' man, a player, a boy. It can also be things like being selfish and unreliable, always seeking some new pleasurable experience instead. What's really attractive about 7s is that they're actually spontaneous. Like, people write in their dating profiles all the time that like, oh, I like spontaneous, or I'm spontaneous. And what they mean is like they just like getting a different coffee at a different shop. 7s actually are. They're going to take you on adventures and do wild and new things. People always say they want a man that makes them laugh. This man will make you laugh. I guarantee it. If you're looking for excitement and you're looking for trying something new, 7's your guy. This is someone who will open your horizons and make sure that you're going to live life to the fullest too. Next, we have 8s, the warrior. Their masculinity is powerful. They are strong and tough straight talkers who like and enjoy a challenge. These guys are assertive. They don't let anyone push them around, and they hate being controlled. They're the top dog. They are highly protective of those in their charge. They don't like anyone taking advantage of them, certainly, and they don't like anyone taking advantage of somebody else. These guys are fearless, but not in the 6 way. Fearless like in they don't experience fear. They're just that confident. They know they can do it. Sometimes their confidence can err on the side of blustery, but they can actually back it up. They tend to go with their gut and often have really good instincts. These guys are great leaders. They just have so much overwhelming confidence that people have confidence in them and are willing to follow them. In fact, they're drawn to them. They have a lot of charisma. These guys are good at getting things done, and they can handle hard things, and they don't mind breaking a few rules. They're often your classic bad boy. They don't want to follow other people's rules. They don't want to be controlled. They don't want to follow orders. They're either setting the orders or they're being kicked out for insubordination. They care a lot about what's fair, but they have their own code of justice. Think Wolverine, Wyatt Earp, Uhtred, son of Uhtred. Guys like John Dutton and Thomas Shelby. Okay, they're kind of anti-heroes, but they have that strong vibe. He's a real life Viking. Like, look, that stare, you don't want to get in a fight with him. Like, he doesn't even need to fight. You see that and you're like, never mind. They were talking a big talk before, and then they see this guy and they're like, okay, I guess I was wrong. My apologies. He's an army of one. Literally. These guys have a commanding presence that you just can't help be drawn in. So what's the bad side? This is where you get classic things having to do with being controlling, but in a domineering way. And domineering can look like putting people in their place, in some ways being cruel, being power hungry or dictatorial, in some cases being explosive or even violent. And they can be petty. They don't like anyone having the last word or the upper hand. Another classic toxic trait that you get with 8s is doing the blame game. It's like they invented gaslighting. Like it's always somebody else's fault for something not happening, or you're the problem. The way you saw it wasn't actually what happened. 8s don't like to lose control, and so when things go wrong, it can be frustrating for them, and so they look for someone else to blame. This can be that classic, I never said that. I've never denied anything in my life. I think it's important to talk about 8s because they're often the caricature of masculinity that people kind of measure to, both the good and the bad. And so it's good to highlight what are these things and what they're like and how they're different from other types. Okay, so what's attractive about 8s? Well, if you're in their inner circle, you feel so protected. You know that they're ready to throw down if it's time to do that. They will fight for you. They are not going to let anyone take advantage of you. And that might be somebody like hitting on you on the dance floor when you don't want that, or like your boss bothering you for some petty thing. They're going to defend you either way. And they're just strong, confident men, and that's really an attractive trait. Next, we have type 9, the anchor. His masculinity is grounded. He's very rooted. He's very calm and chill. This guy has an understated charm. He's low-key Riz. These guys are supportive, but they're not hungry for affirmation or needing recognition for what they're doing. They just want to keep the peace and have harmony with people. They have a strength in being able to hear varying and differing opinions and not being ruffled by them. They make really good counsel because they can hear varying perspectives and also because they're good at listening. They also have this special kind of strength where they can be calm and create this calmness for other people around them. Like, you feel good hanging out with a 9. So it's kind of like a different version of stoicism. It's not that steely kind. It's more of like Zen master. They're not quick to anger. They're not explosive. They're not really quick to anything. They're just really rooted, down-to-earth people. I mean, look at this guy. People come to him for his counsel, and there's also this like deep wisdom that he might bring. Like, you just came there because you're talking about like a sheep dispute, and he's like talking about the trees and nature and how it all connects, and you're like, I didn't really get it, but it made me feel better in the end. He's living life at just a slower pace. He's having you also get to that slower pace. You know, breathe in, breathe out, see the whole world around you. Think like any kind of martial arts master, you know, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Splinter from the Ninja Turtles, or Uncle Iroh, and also characters like Frodo and Luke Skywalker. These guys are kind and just generally really well liked. So let's talk about the toxic side of 9s. So toxic things with 9s you can see is being lazy, not having any ambition, not getting around to things that need to get done, you know, playing video games all day, not moving out of their parents' house. The kind of classic deadbeat. 9s really want to keep the peace, but the other side that can be toxic with that is being passive aggressive and having bottled up anger as well. And in some cases, when they feel pushed, exploding with that anger. Another toxic masculinity trait you hear is emotional withdrawal. So when things are too uncomfortable, just kind of disengaging and no longer being part of the conversation. Just generally being avoidant. But there are a lot of really attractive things about 9s. They are super steady and they have this strong willingness to listen. They're also very open-minded and not judgmental. And something that's super attractive about 9s is that they are really humble. Their egos are not huge, and there's a lot of room for other people. And at the same time, people really respect them. So men out there, what types do you relate to and why? I'd love to hear from you. I've been learning so much, and I can't wait to hear from you. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!